Hello friends, welcome to the exercise on how to service a mixer and wet grinder. At the end of this video, you will be able to dismantle, identify parts, replace faulty parts and reassemble the mixer grinder. Dismantle, identify parts, replace faulty parts and reassemble the wet grinder.
Let us arrange the tools, materials and equipments required to do this practical. Test lamp. Double-ended spanner set. Plastic spanner. Digital multimeter. Megger. Screwdriver. Pulley puller. Mixer grinder. Wet grinder. Grease or lubricating oil. Kerosene. Cleaning brush. Sandpaper smooth. Soldering lead.
For better understanding, this exercise is split into two. Part 1 will contain service and repair of mixer and Part 2 will contain service and repair of grinder. Now, let us see service and repair of a mixer.
Note down the nameplate details in the maintenance card. Enter the details of the complaint from the customer in the maintenance card. Switch on the mixer and check for its functioning. Isolate the mixer from the supply. Open the bottom cover and conduct visual inspection for damages in the supply cord and loose terminal connections, good condition of switches, proper mounting of the motor. Check whether the nylon or rubber coupling of the jar and motor is properly seated. If not, replace it. Sometimes the retaining spring and washer might be spoiled and require replacement. The typical issues with a mixer grinder that occurs frequently, especially if the appliance is too old, are a loose blade in the jar, crack in the jar, or worn out rubber gasket. Typically, mixer grinders operate trouble-free for 8 to 10 years or longer. You can use a screwdriver to tighten the blade assembly if it is found that the appliance has a loose blade in the jar. Conduct an insulation test of the motor using a megger and record in the maintenance card. The insulation resistance value should not be less than 1 megaohm. Improve the insulation value by heating or varnishing. If the insulation value is less than 1 megaohm, enter the test results in the maintenance card. Conduct the insulation test after varnishing and enter the results in the maintenance card. The schematic diagram of a mixer is shown in the screen. Here, the face is connected to the speed control buttons via the overload switch, usually present at the bottom of the mixer, and tappings from the field windings are connected to the speed control switch. Check whether the connections are made as per the schematic diagram. Now, remove the power cord from the mixer and check for continuity and short circuits between wires using either a digital multimeter or a test lamp. If found defective, replace it with a good one. Disconnect the overload switch from the housing. If your mixer grinder suddenly stops, then look at the bottom part of the mixer. You will find a stick-like switch. Press it, wait for 10 minutes and restart. This will restart the appliance. This switch is called an overload switch or protection switch or reset button, and it works like a circuit breaker. Every mixer has a device for automatically cutting off the electricity, referred to as circuit breaker. The machine will immediately shut down if the circuit suspects overloading, resulting in the abrupt shutdown of the mixer grinder. This will prevent the motor from overheating and burning. After disconnecting the switch, place it on the workbench. Set the digital multimeter in continuity mode, place the probes on metal pin connectors, and ensure the beep sound occurs. If no sound occurs, conclude it is defective and replace it with good one. Also, you can use the test lamp to check whether the switch is good or defective. Note down the connections before removing the connection from the speed control or rotary switch. Set the digital multimeter in continuity mode, turn the switch to position 1 and place the probes, one at the common point and the other at position 1, and check the continuity. Do the same for other positions by turning the switch to their respective positions. Test the field coil using a test lamp. If there is no continuity, then replace it with a new winding. Remove the carbon brushes from brush holder on both sides. If the brush length is shorter by 1/3 of its original length, it is better to replace the brushes with same grade and size. The new brush must be bedded on the commutator properly. Unscrew the appropriate nuts and bolts and take out the armature from the field core. Test the armature using growler. Ground test. Place the armature in the growler, turn the selector switch to ground test and turn the power on. Touch one test probe to armature core, another test probe to commutator as shown. If the test lamp glows, armature or commutator is grounded. Replace armature. Short circuit test. Turn the selector switch to short position. With armature installed in growler and power on, hold the hacksaw blade parallel and touching armature core segment as shown. Rotate armature slowly 1 or more revolutions. If hacksaw blade vibrates, armature is shorted. Replace armature. Open circuit test. Turn the selector switch to volts high and rotate the armature slowly. As each coil comes in position between the pole pieces, touch the corresponding commutator bar with one test prod and the adjacent bar with the other prod. Watch the meter and if it reads low, turn the selector switch to volts low. No reading on meter indicate broken winding or open coil. If coils are okay, the meter readings should remain the same for each coil as the commutator is rotated. Assume the first coil test is okay. A lower meter reading while testing the other coils would indicate an insufficient number of turns. A higher reading indicates there are too many turns in the coil. Improve the insulation value by heating or varnishing. If the insulation value is less than 1 megaohm, then enter the test results in the maintenance card. If the motor is opened for varnishing, clean thoroughly the stator and armature and bush bearings. Conduct the insulation test after varnishing and enter the results in the maintenance card. Remember that the nuts at the blades and the center shaft holding nut are to be loosened by clockwise movement and tightened by anti-clockwise movement in most of the mixers. Lubricate the bearing as recommended by the manufacturer before assembly. Most of the bearings need no lubrication. If required, a drop of light oil like 3-in-1 oil could be used. Clean the commutator surface. A black carbon deposit could be removed by CTC, that is, carbon tetrachloride. Seat the bushes properly over the commutator. Check for an adequate length of brushes to exert spring pressure. Assemble the motor and tighten the terminal screws. Assemble the blade with jar and nylon coupling at the bottom. Connect the motor to the supply and start the mixer. Observe the working of the mixer for smooth running. Repairing of mixer. Listen to the complaints of the customer or user and enter in the maintenance card. Common complaints, troubleshoot for the possible cause, and the corrective actions are as follows. Inspect visually the following parts for trouble: power cord and plug, terminal connections at the switch, couplings, freeness of the shaft, burnt smell or discoloring of windings.
This concludes part 1. See you in part 2.